Right, so this is going to be off the cuff, and I don't exactly know if it's going to be any good, so if it is, I'll post it. If it isn't, I won't. I've been struggling with the idea of Nietzsche's Superman, or the Overman, or the Ubermensch, or whatever you want to call it. And just as an aside, it's very unfortunate that his sister ended up re-editing his work and doing her damnedest to popularize Nietzsche's philosophy for the Third Reich, because Nietzsche was anything but a national socialist or a German fascist. He was by far more of an individualist than a socialist or communist or any of these governmental structures. So, women, am I right? It takes a woman to corrupt a man's message and turn it into Nazism. And it takes men who are fucked up. But anyways, back to the Overman. It's not this idea of the Aryan super race or whatever. This is not about that at all. So please don't misunderstand me when I'm talking about the Übermensch and thinking that that has something to do with Nazi eugenics, negative eugenics, or culling of the herd, or genocide. It's anything but that. It's about overcoming the overmaking of oneself, to overcome adversity, and specifically to overcome the natural state of things, right? Where man is, cast about the winds of change. Mother Nature does what she will with man, and he has no say in the matter. Instead, the idea is that man becomes the value setter. Man overcomes his nature to an extent. And I know that the Übermensch is the idea that you perfect your nature. And so there's a bit of an interesting dichotomy where, well, are you overcoming nature or are you perfecting nature? And I think that's, I don't know how to interpret that, and maybe somebody can help me with that, I don't know. But, hey Marcus, if you're listening, I'd like some help with that. But the idea of being the value setter, that appeals to me. And whether that is to place a high premium on nature, or to place a lower value on the nature that pre-exists, the pre-existing condition of man, I guess, where there are weaknesses and diseases and all these things. To overcome that, it appeals to me. And I'm thinking that MGTOW is one of the best starting points for becoming the Overman, becoming the Superman, becoming the Ubermensch, or whatever you want to call it. Because Nietzsche, he starts with the transvaluation of all values, or just destroying all previous value systems to build anew, so that man can become the value setter. So he gets rid of Christianity, kills God, and he says, well, now you have to figure it out on your own. Now you have to be the value setter. MGTOW, in a lot of ways, starts from that nihilism. It starts from the realization that inherited values, well, they're worthless. I would say they're worthless because it does not come from an evaluator. All value arises from evaluation. There's no a priori value, no inherent value. Like gold, for instance, it's just metal. It has looser valence electrons, which make it a good conductor and prevent corrosion and all this because of the lattices, because of how the electrons interact. But that, does that have value, or are you going to say that that's now worth $1,000-something, whatever that means, per ounce? I mean, no. I mean, that's after someone has made that evaluation. Someone thinks that gold looks pretty, or somebody likes the, I guess, historical value of gold, or looks to it for its industrial uses and sees value in that. But gold simply existing, there's no inherent value in gold. Gold would be worth exactly $0 if there were no humans, no men to evaluate it, no men to mine it, no men to do anything with it. So all value arises from a thinking mind. It arises from agents, economic agents in some sense, but moral agents as well. Any being with agency, any agency that arises from knowledge, right? So it's the thinking man who sets values, and he has to do that by himself. There's no way that you can say, okay, well, this thing is worth this much because somebody else told me that it was worth this much. No, you're not going to spend however much of your life in exchange for whatever value you are inherited with. It doesn't work like that. You are the one who bears the price of all things. You know, if you want to buy an ounce of gold, well, then you're going to have to work for it. You're either going to have to go out and mine it, or you're going to have to go and trade with someone who has mined it or has collected it. And you're going to be trading away whatever resources, the chief one among them, your time, your life, in order to achieve whatever value you set out to get. So no one else is bearing the price. Ultimately, you are the one who bears all the prices for things that you want. If you value something, then it's contingent upon you to go and get it. So it's not like, well, Susie Q told me that gold was worth this many dollars per ounce, and I'm going to go and I'm going to buy a gold ring for Susie Q because, you know, she told me that it was worth this much, and you know, then she gets married and you'll lose half your stuff. But that's a story for another time, I think. The idea of values being imparted upon you doesn't make any sense because you're the one that bears the cost, and Susie Q is not the one that bears the cost. She bears the cost for her own actions, for her own evaluations. You bear the cost for your evaluations. I'm sorry if this is a bit stream of consciousness. I haven't really set up a roadmap. These are, you know, I'm having trouble with the philosophy, and I'm just working through it. So please bear with me. If you'd like, I mean, you don't have to do anything. If you don't see this as a valuable use of your time, this is a waste of your time, then click away. Go do something that you'd rather be doing. It would be entirely hypocritical of me to say, oh no, you must value these words, you must value this this discourse because I say so. No. you should value your life as you see fit, right? You're a MGTOW, you're a man going your own way, so you should be the value setter for your own life. But see, this is difficult to come to terms with. I mean, the red pill rage, everybody knows about that, but it's more than that. It's also the nihilism that follows, the apathy, the dejected, listless. You're stuck in this rut for a lot of people. So it does set you in this path of nihilism that you're faced with not having any inherent values, and that you have to create value for yourself, and that's difficult. I'm having a hard time with it. Having a hard time with it because it's it's a lot easier just to inherit your values, to accept what someone else has said. You know, I think that's why women like men who are confident, who are value setters, who tell them what to do, right? Maybe not a domineering man because they don't like to give up all of their agency, or you know, they don't think that they like to give up all of their agency. But yeah, they do like this dominant man, and you know, the reason that they like that is because it's easy, it's comfortable. I mean, if you have somebody else giving you all of your ethics, all of your values, then you don't have to work for them. They get handed to you on a silver platter, and you're like, hey, life is easy, I've got it all figured out. The difficult thing about being a value setter is that you acknowledge that you don't have it figured out, and that there is yet more to figure out. You know, Socrates had this wonderful insight, which is that the only true knowledge comes in knowing that we know nothing. And the idea is that know-it-alls don't ask questions, and so they stagnate. Their knowledge, it never grows. If you think that you know everything, you stop asking questions. And that's not the way with MGTOW, I don't think, and that's not the way with any intellectually honest person. But there are plenty of people who are not intellectually honest, who just accept things without questioning, which makes MGTOW, it puts us in this very interesting, interesting position, right? We have to reevaluate our lives, all things. We have to reevaluate social structures, our place in them. We have to reevaluate what we want to do with our lives, because so much of it was driven by procreation. We thought that the meaning of life was in the eyes of a child, or in the love of a woman, or something like this. And when we have our fantasies shattered, our delusions disabused of us, or we are disabused of our delusions, rather, we have to start from scratch and start anew and start making new evaluations. And in doing so, we become, in a sense, the value setter, the Übermensch. We overcome. And not everyone gets out of the abyss, not everyone gets out of the valley and overcomes and climbs the mountain. But it does set us on a path where we are uniquely able to venture forth from. I mean, no one who's in the Matrix or in the blue pill world, so to speak, none of those people have the capacity to be the value setter. And none of them. They cannot go and evaluate things anew. They're always going to be tied to things like social approval, or inherited value, or theologic ethics, theologians, and all that BS. All the values that come from outside of a person. But and this is very difficult for me because I don't like tautologies. It's very difficult for me because if you set yourself as the primary value, if you are the prime value from which all other values are derived, if you are the prime evaluator, then that's almost tautological. It's circular. It's like, I am valuable because I am valuable, or I have evaluated myself as being valuable. You know, compared to what, right? Or that's playing with it's tickling the is-ought dilemma, right? I am, so I ought, right? Or I exist and therefore I should exist, or I should have value because I am. I don't think that's a good way to be. So I'm struggling, especially with the idea of the circular nature of it. To be the value setter, it places you in an interesting position. How do you verify certain claims about, for instance, MGTOW's value? Right? You certainly can't do that through the lens of society, because society has its own sense of values, if you would call it that. If you call it a sensible view of values, it's I don't think that it is, because it's informed by superstition and history and all of these bullshit things. But you can't use society as your metric, as your yardstick of value. So what do you use as your standard of value if you're a MGTOW? You know, how do you judge success? You know, you just say whatever you want is success. Well, okay, well, that's one way to do it, I suppose. You could say that me simply living, that is a success, or that is to be successful. Okay, maybe it is. It doesn't seem very objective, though, and then that I struggle with. So, I mean, there's an easy cop-out answer, I suppose. You could say that your biology, your humanity, your life, that is the objective measure of your value. Take the objectivist kind of stance to say that because you can think, you then have value. Okay, well, compared to what, right? I mean, you're making these evaluations, and if you set yourself as the primary value, the highest value from which you derive all other values, then what? I mean, then I suppose it logically follows that you would want to enrich and extend yourself, which is to say to live long and to prosper, and to, I guess, overcome your weakness, your shortcomings, and to self-actualize. Well, what is self-actualization really? Because there are these a priori inherited or whatever you want to call it traits, right? Your humanity, your nature. So is it just an improvement of your nature? Is that it? Do you just become the best man that you can be, or do you become something more? What are you? What does it mean to be the primary value? I would posit that is, in other words, it is tantamount to one who can think, one who can choose, or one who has power, the power to choose. And I would say that knowledge is power to make choices. And in that sense, I would agree with Socrates and say that there is only one good, knowledge, one evil, ignorance. So then you compare your value, I guess, your primary value to reality, to existence, to power, to knowledge, to truth, these things, which make for really good standards, very good metrics, against which to measure yourself. If you are powerful, if you are in harmony with existence to the point that you can affect change, then I would say that is fairly powerful, and that has some value to it, and you can do whatever you want with it. And you know, so then that raises an interesting question of what is you in this equation? Who are you? What are you? What does it mean to do whatever you want? Well, okay, so then you have to look back at nature. So it becomes this this very difficult circle. Do you improve upon nature, or do you overcome nature? And I suppose in some sense you never overcome nature, because we are all bounded by the laws of nature, laws of physics. So there's really no overcoming certain things, and it would be delusional to, let's say, want to overcome the laws of thermodynamics. I mean, don't get me wrong, I used to hate the idea of the heat death of the universe. It was a profoundly disturbing thought that all things would tend toward chaos. There would never be an everlasting order, and there would never be this sense of immortality. That you could never achieve it, because it would be very much against, I believe, the second law of thermodynamics, right? You can't win, and you can't break even. That's rather difficult to accept. In the long term, everything tends towards zero. Everything tends towards its lowest energy state. The Fight Club quote, on a long enough timeline, everyone's chance of survival drops to zero. So, do you strive for immortality even knowing that you cannot achieve it? And in so striving, you do make progress. You do enrich and extend yourself. You do live long and prosper when you live in a kind of healthy state. So, this is very difficult. This is a problem, because if that were something to strive for, immortality, if it were something to strive for, shouldn't it be achievable? I mean, if laws of thermodynamics, laws of nature, make it so that your engine of desire cannot be a perpetual motion machine, that you cannot live forever and continue on, then you can never achieve this goal. You can never achieve perfection, in other words. And you can make the argument that even though you can't achieve perfection, that doesn't mean that you should stop trying, because there are advantages to the pursuit. so then it's like, okay, well, do we walk it back a little bit? Do we say we should attempt to achieve this asymptotic value of the greatest life, even though we can't achieve perfection? Should we try at least to achieve greatness? And I suppose that would be more in line with what is possible, what is attainable, what is within the laws of nature. So I suppose the goalpost gets moved to greatness. Okay, well, knowing that there are certain limitations, how great? Right? What is the limit to your greatness? And then it becomes this struggle with realism. You're struggling with a kind of pragmatic philosophy. What is practical? What can be done? But that's not ideal, right? The pragmatic and ideal are set in opposition to one another, because one is what you would like to achieve, and what is what you can achieve, or what is ideal and what is real. So these are the thoughts that I struggle with, because I'm really looking for a kind of consistency. I suppose I should try and relate this back to the audience and MGTOW philosophy. So what do you guys think? What do you think about MGTOW as being kind of the first step toward the Superman? I like the idea that if we discard females as valuable, inherently valuable, because of their ability to create babies, to procreate, which sets humanity as the value, in essence. And if we discard humanity as the value and we instead say that we are the value, the individual is the value, and that humanity may not be the value, and perhaps we'll try for a transhumanism as opposed to a humanism or humanistic ethic. If we do that, that has interesting implications. So if, for instance, we strive toward an artificial womb, that's not humanistic. That's transhumanism, right? We are transcending our humanity and our need for biological wombs. And seeking reproductive technologies which make women obsolete. So that's you could think there's like a baby making machine. So there's this kind of biomechanical hybrid. That's not humanism. That's transhumanism. If you look into augmenting your senses, augmenting your physical body with machines, in a kind of cyborg or whatever, or maybe you augment your intelligence with a smartphone or the internet or whatever. That's transhumanism. That's not humanism. That's not placing the value as that which is a natural human being. So we are shifting away from this this a priori value, this inherent value of humanity. And where are we going with it? Right? If we extrapolate from here, where does it go? So do we become eventually pure energy beings of thought, transcending the physical plane or something? I don't know. I have no idea where this is going. I think that it would be exciting to see where it's going. I'd love to live for as long as possible in order to see where mankind is going. I'm making the distinction between humankind, humanity, and mankind, because I think that a man is a thing that thinks. It's a questionable etymology where you connect men with mental, and some scholars think that there is a connection, I think, of the Proto-Indo-European roots of mental and men. But I would say that even if that link is not there, I'm making that the link. I'm saying that man is a thing that thinks. Man is a mental thing. And women, for whatever reason, maybe it's because of the incentive structure, thought is not placed as a high premium for women. I don't think that exploration, difficult thoughts, I don't think women are incentivized to engage in this kind of exploration. They really do have a different incentive structure. For them to live, it's not by their mind. I guess you could say that they survive. You could say that they survive through their guile and their manipulation of men who are the ones who shape the world around them. I mean, how many women are building the buildings that they live in? Right? Pouring the concrete, lifting the foundations, inventing the technologies, machining the things, putting together the computers that they're using for social media and all of it. And women are living at the behest of men, I think. And the incentive structure is simply skewed for women. So I don't think that they value thinking nearly as much as men. And maybe they can cast off their inherited values, but I don't think that they can. Maybe there would be an Übermenschen, das Menschen, female, woman, Fraulein. It's been a while since German, but Übermenschen, I think, Überfrau. I don't know. But I doubt it. I mean, how many women do you find on the frontier? Few. Frontiersman is a very gendered noun because men are the ones you find on the frontier primarily. You won't find women of the mind nearly as much as you'll find men of the mind. So the incentive structure, that's interesting. So what set us down this path was that we were not valued, and so we had to come to our own set of values. That's interesting. Because we were rejected, we were able to accept ourselves. That's very fortunate, I think. By whatever turn of chance led you down this path of MGTOW, that because of whatever rejection that you had to suffer through, you were then at that point allowed to reevaluate, or forced to reevaluate perhaps, but in so doing you gained the ability to accept yourself. When everyone around you was rejecting you, you gained the ability to accept yourself. That sounds fantastic. That sounds wonderful. I think that's a kind of thing that very few people ever get. You know, MGTOW is a very small community, and don't let anyone tell you any different. MGTOW is a small community. A few thousand people, really. Some MGTOW will say that, oh, there's a silent majority. There are all these men who are MGTOWs, they just don't know it yet. I would disagree. I would say that MGTOWs, they're the ones that search. And in searching, they will find MGTOW. They will question, and they will happen upon MGTOW philosophy. Those who don't search, I don't think that they are MGTOW. I think that they are just people of happenstance. I think that they're I mean they're people who are one blowjob away, I suppose. I wouldn't call them MGTOW. You know, maybe they're on a marriage strike, maybe they're traditionalists, all this, but I wouldn't call them MGTOW. Because a MGTOW, a man going his own way, is one who is searching for his own values. He's searching in order to become what? I suppose he's trying to become the Superman, in some sense. He's trying to overcome and to become the primary value. He may not know it. He may not know that that is what he's searching for, but little by little, I think that he is becoming the Superman, the primary value, the value set. And I suppose that, in some sense, he's transcending his humanity for his manity, I guess, for his, this is inventing new words, for his maleness, for his mental side, his transvaluation, I suppose. It's very difficult. I don't know what to make of it. Because on the one hand, wouldn't it be nice if everyone became the primary value? Everyone became an evaluator. Because then there would be so much more creation, so much more invention, so much more refinement, right? Take a look at, let's say, Michael Faraday. And I know that it was Osman, somebody else after Faraday who ended up isolating aluminum, but let's, because I know Faraday, let's run with that. So before Michael Faraday thought that it was valuable to discover electrolysis, aluminum wasn't a choice. Humanity had no access to aluminum. I mean, bauxite ore, aluminum oxide, ruby, it was not an access. It was not, you couldn't choose it. So Michael Faraday comes along, he sets a value for himself because he wants to discover new things. He starts playing around with electricity, and he realizes that you can split compounds into their component pieces through electromotive force. You can do the Arrhenius equation and find out how much energy it takes to split things like water or aluminum oxide or whatever. But because he thought that it was valuable, because he wanted to discover something, humanity then gained a choice. And now we have the ability to make an evaluation of things that were not there before. I mean, the aluminum was there before, it was just bound up in oxides, but aluminum metal was never a choice. And for a time, aluminum was worth more than gold. Can you imagine that? I mean, because it required electrolysis, and it was so rare because so few people knew how to perform the chemistry. Aluminum was more valuable than gold, and eventually it gets to a point where aluminum cans are worth like maybe 5 cents tops in a recycling center or something like that. and it's just produced en masse, and it becomes cheap because it's been done before. And we're like, oh yeah, I've seen that trick. I know how to make aluminum. That's nice. Okay, whatever. But it wasn't a choice, right? Now it's cheap. Now it's easy. You could collect aluminum, put it into a furnace, melt it down, and cast it into whatever aluminum casting you want. But before Michael Faraday, it wasn't even a choice. Before someone set the value, the primary value of discovery, of knowledge, of figuring out how to do this, it wasn't even worth nothing. It wasn't even worth. Sorry, it wasn't even worth 5 cents. I'm sure it was worth something, but wasn't even worth 5 cents per can. Before Faraday, it wasn't worth anything. There was no evaluation of aluminum because no one knew that it existed. So we became the value setters. And the same thing, I mentioned gold earlier. There's no inherent value in gold. It's just a lump of metal with free or floating valence electrons, which make it a good conductor. And because of the lattice, prevent corrosion, so it can be native in its elemental form. So it doesn't require very much refinement. I mean, yes, you'll find alloys like electrum and whatnot, but gold, it was, and we didn't have to really create it from scratch. But we create value from scratch, and that makes so much more value, right? I mean, imagine how many billions of dollars, or how many man hours, how much life goes into aluminum cans now, right? The soft drink industry, all this. How many things, aluminum siding, are built around this discovery, this value that was set. And so there are all these people who are clamoring for value because one man decided to set the value. Because one man said that it was valuable to figure out how the world worked and to make choices, to increase his ability to choose, to increase his knowledge, to increase his power. How many millions of people around the world are engaged in things like recycling cans, adding magnesium to aluminum to create a magnesium aluminum alloy, which is harder for the use of casting for all of these things. How many metallurgists, how many material scientists, how many crafts people, because one person decided something was valuable. All of these people follow behind, riding on their coattails. And I'm not going to say that Michael Faraday was some kind of Ubermensch. He was just somebody interested in exploration, knowledge, and knowledge is power. How much value is it to be the primary value? It makes it seem like that would be the infinite. It makes me think that being the primary value is all value. All value is derived from you, me, the thinking mind. You know, I'm rambling quite a lot. I don't know if this is going anywhere because I haven't really decided if it was going anywhere. I'm just exploring. This is difficult because I don't know if it's really going anywhere. I don't know if there is a destination. You know, maybe our progeny will be able to achieve some semblance of immortality. I don't know. I don't know if we can reach perfection. I don't even know what perfection is. You know, the wonderful thing about man is that he is a bridge, I suppose. That we are continuing to evolve. And now we have in our hands the ability to guide our own evolution. You know, with genetics, with science, we can choose where we want to go. It's a power that we didn't used to have. And our power will continue to grow, and I don't know where it's going. And maybe it's not for me ever to know. Maybe my progeny will, either genetic or mimetic progeny. I don't know if I'm ever going to procreate genetically, but if I do, I mean, I'd probably end up cloning myself and making minor tweaks to the genome. But yeah, if the technology progresses to the point where I can do that. But I don't know where my progeny is going, and I don't think that it is really my place to know where it is going. I don't know if they will ever reach perfection somewhere down the road. I don't know. But I'd like to give them a shot. I'd like to build a foundation for which they can stand, but that is in defiance of this Superman, the MGTOW philosophy, going your own way. I can't set a foundation for anyone else. I can, I suppose, live by example. but it's contingent upon them to accept, I suppose, the philosophy or not. So I'm not really building a foundation for anyone. Even if I do have offspring, even if I do share ideas with anyone, I don't think that I'm giving them anything, really. Maybe they get something for themselves, but I'm not giving it to them. They're searching, and in their search, they may find something that I said or did or some example of mine, but that's not for me. It's not my search that led them to me. It's their search that leads them to things such as me. But that's incidental. So what am I doing? I suppose I am trying to usher in the age of the Superman, but I think that I want to be the Superman, because I can't usher in the age of the Superman for anyone else. I can perhaps live by example. I can perhaps set values for myself, and others can see those values and see the ability to make values, and perhaps set them for themselves, set values for themselves. But I can't set their values for them. I could be a tyrant, and I could impose my values as best I could and leverage my power against them and their values and whatever. But that would be, in my mind, antithetical to the whole endeavor. And in my mind, it would be immoral to force another moral agent, another thinking man, another agent. It would be immoral to subvert another's capacity for choice, because I think that choice is good. You can't make a choice for good. You can't make a preference if choice does not exist. So I suppose I'd like to be an example for others to follow, but maybe that's foolish. Maybe that's not something that I should seek to be. Maybe I should seek to be self-complete and not really care about if anyone sees value in the works that I do. Simply that I can be the value setter for my own life, and that I can strive for a kind of perfection. Which is really only a striving for greatness. So do I strive for greatness? Do I dare disturb the universe? Do I... that's a horrible question. Do I dare disturb the universe? Of course you want to disturb the universe. Your very existence disturbs the universe, as it should. I know that it's best to live in harmony with existence, with the laws of nature, but there is also something to the idealization of your condition, which upsets the harmony of reality. It's not spontaneous that we create. It requires work. It requires effort. You have to put energy into the system because it's thermodynamically unfavorable for these things, for creation to happen spontaneously. You have to put energy into the system for you to get order out of the system, because things tend toward disorder, things tend toward chaos in their natural state. So in some sense, I suppose I'm fighting against nature, creating a new nature. Why? For what? What is the ideal that I'm trying to get if I'm trying to create a new nature? If I create a new artificial womb, let's say, to what end? For what purpose? Part of me has this very childish desire to show women what for, Say, you guys, you abdicated your glory as a thinking being. You rested on your laurels, your nature. You didn't decide to improve upon it. You languished, and this is what you get. I think that's a rather childish reproach to direct toward women and to create an artificial womb just to give them this giant middle finger, like, fuck you bitches. You have no more value here because we've created our own value. I think that's rather childish. I don't think that's a very good motivation for wanting to create an artificial womb. I think a better motivation is to usher in a kind of manhood. The artificial womb means that it would be deliberate, that you would choose to impart values upon another being deliberately, to choose how you wanted another human being, another man, I suppose, to be, and that seems antithetical to the endeavor of becoming a value setter, each for themselves, because you would be imposing the values of your own upon your children. Now, you could certainly make the argument that, well, you cannot create value if certain conditions are not met. If you're not healthy, if you're dead, let's say, you have no ability to set values. So you want, if you want your offspring to be value setters, and not to be imparted with value from you, If you want them to be supermen, you have to let them freely choose. But in order for them to freely choose, certain requirements must be met, such as health. So I suppose if you impart the value of health into your children through artificial means, you are imposing a value upon them, but so that they can create more value. This becomes a bit of a slippery slope. Where does it end? How much do you impart upon your children? Do you go in and do you determine certain elements of their cognitive function? Do you make it so that they can perceive things differently? Do you augment them? Where does it end? This is why bioethics is incredibly important, and I can't find a goddamn person. Goddamn, I am a kind of value setter, so I'm using that word in the stranger in a strange land, Heinlein kind of use of the word. When I say God damn it, I mean thinking being. I am damning it. You know, there is no God, so when I say God damn it, I mean I damn it. But whatever, it's a quirk of the language. God damn it, I can't find anyone to discuss bioethics with me. And these are important things because I'm going to be spending my entire life seeking perfection, striving for greatness. And there isn't a goddamn other person out there who can converse with me on these subjects in any meaningful way, which is incredibly isolating, incredibly lonely. So I'm a biochemist. I'm going to be working toward increasing my power, increasing my knowledge, increasing the number of resources which are under my control, in dollars, I suppose, but more diverse resources than thin strips of green cotton. I am going to be spending my life, my finite life, trying to extend my life and trying to enrich my life, and in such a way as to further this debate, I guess, this ethical conundrum about how far, where do you go, all of it. I don't know who can tell me what to do with any kind of certainty, with any kind of knowledge. You know, the artificial womb, I mean, that's just one instance. It's just one instance of what we are capable of. You know, as time progresses, you know, we'll figure out the mechanics of life. We've already figured out many of the mechanics of life. So, gene therapy, let's say, all of it. These choices which become available to us with knowledge, you know, they're not choices to some degree. They will be choices, and do we just fumble into these choices, or do we do so with direction, with you know, premeditated, meditated? You know, I wish I had better etymology skills, but whatever. So there's this can of worms that we're opening up with bioethics, with biotechnology, with changing the definition of manhood, with changing the definition of humanity. You know, Alan Turing coming up with Turing tests for machines. More human than human. White zombie, I believe. It's a can of worms. And there really aren't people who are qualified to discuss these things. I tried to talk to one of my professors. She wasn't interested in these discussions about transhumanism, about bioethics, about biotechnology. And she teaches a goddamn course on bioethics. She wouldn't discuss these things with me because they weren't her interest. And for fuck's sake. It is incredibly isolating. It is incredibly lonely to be the value setter, to be the primary value, because you have no contemporaries. You have no one to discuss these things with. And everyone's in that same boat, and I can understand why you'd want to abdicate the responsibility of setting values for yourself, because it is lonely, it is difficult, it is quite a lot of work to be godly, to be the value setter, to be the creator. So, a lot of people give up just because it's lonely, and I suppose they give up because they value others, as if others have some inherent value, that they themselves are not value setters, right? If you have a social standard of value, you know, truth through consensus, truth through testimony, when we know that testimony can be flawed, but people give up the search for truth, the search for value, because they're lonely. MGTOWs, we're in a unique position to become value setters because we were rejected, or that we have rejected. Isn't that interesting? We become the vanguard. We become the foremen, the forebearers, the frontiersmen, the value setters, and we are the ones that are cast out, or that have cast ourselves out from society. Society needs us, and it is symbiotic, I suppose, because now I don't want to grow my own food. I'd rather someone else do that for me. I don't want someone to build my computers for me. I'd like someone else to do that for me so that I can do other things. There's certainly a value in the specialization, or the what's the economics term, where somebody becomes specialized. Traditionalists say this for men and women, how a woman is more valuable in the home, a man is more valuable out in the workplace. This what is the term? What is the phrase? The separation of, or no, the, oh darn it. I love economics. I'm having a brain fart right now. The distribution of, no, that's not it. Specialization of labor. I'll just say the specialization of labor. Division of labor. There we go. The division of labor. Oh, it took me too long to come up with that phrase. I'm embarrassed for myself. Almost. If I cared, I would be embarrassed. But it's funny because I do love economics. I think that's a very useful term. The division of labor. So where was I? I see value in the division of labor, and I'm not going to abscond from society or whatever because I want to do everything myself, do it yourself, grow my own food, become a hermit or whatever. Because I don't think that that's the best use of my time. I think that I could do more for myself by being part of society. I think I could do more for myself by, yes, trading my finite life for thin strips of green cotton, which I can then trade for goods and services. Because I think that I can manage values and resources more efficiently, than anyone, I suppose. I think that I can I think that I can manage money better than anyone. Which is ironic because, I've, in the past, chosen poverty. Which is very interesting because, I could be making money hand over fist. And I will end up doing that. Because it will increase my freedom, but it's very ironic because I didn't know how to value society and the division of labor and trade and commerce, economy. I didn't know how to economize my time, and so I didn't know whether or not I should chase dollars, chase resources, I suppose. This is rambling, and I apologize for the pauses. Maybe maybe you can think in the middle of the pauses and come up with your own ideas. Hopefully you do. Hopefully you're setting your own values. Hopefully this is not pissing you off. Or hopefully it is. I don't know. It depends on who you are and where you're at. The division of labor took me too long to come up with. But so mankind, I was talking about how it's somewhat ironic that we who have rejected or have been rejected by society, in large measure, are the arbiters of value. We become the value setters that other people follow after. We are the visionaries. We come up with new values, new ways of doing things. We invent things, discover things, build things, create value. And people ride on our coattails. People come after the frontiersmen have tamed the wild and can have some semblance of comfort. So those people that come after us, it's ironic because they're just repeating the same thing. If we have rejected or have been rejected by these people who are living in comfort because of other frontiersmen, humanity is based off of exploration. We decided to leave Africa, or we decided to stand on 2 feet, whatever. We are living on the shoulders of giants. And it's ironic that people would reject giants. People would resent powerful men, the forebearers of them, the forefathers. It's I suppose it's ironic because you wouldn't expect it, because there is that object example, that object lesson, like, oh, look around you. I mean, how many things were built by better men, or built by your precursors, the forebears? And it's plain to see. So you would expect people to value the inventive and explorative spirit of man, but it's denigrated. You know, the outliers, the visionaries, they're shat upon and rejected. So that is rather ironic. You wouldn't expect it, but you would expect it if you realize you could solve the paradox of, well, why is it that women, say for instance, don't value men the way that they should be valued? You could solve that paradox by realizing that they are not value setters, that the women are not thinkers. They have no appreciation for what it means to be a frontiersman, for what it means to be an explorer, an inventor, a creator, a worker. They've never worked a goddamn day in their lives. They don't know what it truly means to have the mental and physical fatigue. They are the weaker sex. And they will always be the weaker sex because I mean, they can always turn around and leave the frontier and go back into the comfort of those who came before. Those who came before. I mean that both literally, figuratively, double entendre sexually. I mean that as in men. Those who came before. The forefathers. Those who paved the way. Men don't always have that choice. We're thrust out upon nature, and we have to make it for ourselves. We have to create, we have to discover, we have to think for ourselves, work for ourselves, create value for ourselves. You know, so maybe it is a good thing. Maybe they tell us to check our privilege. You know, it's this kind of irony that their rejection of us, in some sense, makes us more valuable. You know, one man's trash is another man's treasure, or one woman's trash is another man's treasure. Because if a woman treats a man like trash, or if society treats a man like trash, he can then treasure himself. Because if the metric, the standard of social value becomes unavailable to him, he has to become his own value setter. It's kind of interesting. I mean, you wouldn't, it's not obvious unless you've lived the MGTOW lifestyle, or unless you've been a man. You've never had to realize these things. You know, if you haven't been rejected in a fundamental way, you'll never appreciate what it means to accept yourself to the fullest extent. You won't have the scale, you won't have the perspective of what it means to be cast out and to catch yourself. To be tossed out and to catch yourself, to be your own value. Oh, but it is troubling not having a standard that is so readily accessible to so many other humans. Yeah. Human as a distinct from man. You know, a man is a specific kind of human, obviously. The human standard is not exclusively the male standard. Is that correct? If I were to draw a Venn diagram and say, no, okay, so man would be entirely subsumed by human. As a man is a human, but not all humans are men. So I suppose the two circles overlap. It's not exclusive. It's not mutually exclusive. Venn diagrams aside, and the logic of what it means to be a man. That aside, being cast out, being a man, has a way of forcing you to make evaluations. Wow. Forced? No, you're not forced. I don't think that you're forced, because some men abdicate their responsibility, their ability to respond to nature and the evaluations of others, and to make their own evaluations. Some men abdicate responsibility. Some men go back into the matrix, or they accept the blue pill and go back to sleep. They forget or ignore the search for value and individual value. So you're not forced. You are faced with a choice, and you've chosen. You've chosen to be a value setter, to be your own man, to go your own way, and not to have the value not to have the standard value, or the societal value, to say that, you know, you are only as valuable as how good of a trophy wife you can get, or how much money you can make, or whatever. You know, you set your own value, so you are going down the path of the Superman, transcending your humanity. What does that mean? God damn it, what does that mean? What does it mean to transcend your humanity? I don't know. I suppose that's why it's every man for himself. Men going their own way. You gotta Go your own way, not my way. Don't take any of this, you know. Create some of this. Accept it if you think that it's valuable. Reject it if you don't. Yeah. As Linus Pauling, who's, you know, a lot of biochemists find a hero in Linus Pauling, said, the only way to have good ideas is to have lots of ideas and to throw the bad ones out. So if you find bad ideas in this, good, throw them out. Excellent. That you can discern, that you can discriminate between good ideas and bad ideas. You know, I don't have it figured out. I am still figuring out what my own way is. I'm still walking down this path, and there are many turns in it, and I can't see where it's going. I don't know where ultimately MGTOW leads. I don't know where my way ultimately leads. I do think that it is worthwhile, though, to seek greatness. However, I would say that what is great to you, or great to me, may seem as evil to others. You know, imagine how many people will look upon this brave new world that we are creating. You know, the desire for an artificial womb, for instance. How many people would see that as an abomination? That, I mean, it's greatness, but many people will see it as evil. Many people will see you as evil simply for creating your own values, as opposed to accepting their values, their good, their morals, their ethical systems, their ethical framework. And with this ethic, you know, there comes a work ethic. What do you work for? So many men lose this motivation. I know that I did, because I didn't know what to work for. And just now am I realizing what is worth the effort. What is moral work? What is ethical? And what is the work ethic that I should be applying to my search for greatness? You know, so if you're lacking motivation, I don't know. I think you should find what is ideal, what is great in you. And you know, Charles Bukowski, he had a quote. I'm misphrasing it, I think. Find what you love and let it kill you. To give yourself up to it. You know, if you find that you are the primary value, and if nothing else is more valuable than you, you know, if the greatest price that you can pay is your life, if you realize this, then what is worth spending your life on? Well, ultimately, I think yourself. You know, the only reason to sacrifice yourself is for yourself. You know, for a better version of yourself. Trade up. And you can learn something even from your enemies. This hypergamy, you know, marry yourself, love yourself, trade up for yourself. Make yourself as great as you want you to become. So yeah, you can learn from your enemies, and I suggest that you do. You know, because if you don't have worthy enemies, then, you know, this Charles Mackay, you have no enemies, my friend, alas, the boast is poor. He who is mingled in the fray of duty that the brave endure, must have made enemies. You've dashed no cup from perjured lip, you've hit no traitor on the hip, you've been a coward in the fight. You know, you have no enemies. Alas, my friend, the boast is poor. Yeah, so if women, if feminists specifically, are your enemies, you know, those who oppose this male nature, if they are your enemies, you can learn something from them, and you should learn something from them, because that contrast will teach you something of yourself. That juxtaposition against women, yes, against women, will tell you something about yourself. What is it that you hate about women? Is it their conformity, their lack of thinking, their weakness? Well, good. Hate that. Hate that in women, hate that in yourself. Get rid of it. Trade up, you know? Learn from them their hypergamy, but direct it toward yourself. In some sense, right? So if you are the primary value, if your manhood is really as valuable as MGTOW philosophy thinks that it is, then the only thing worth trading your manhood, your life for, is more manhood, for more life, for more of yourself, right? So the only reason to sacrifice yourself is for yourself. You know, the only reason to spend your time is to make more of it, and in a kind of seeking efficiency, seeking economy of your life. To live long and prosper. And I don't like the Star Trek kind of connotations with that, but to enrich and extend your life. And I don't like the Aaron Clary connotations with that, but to improve your life, to learn from your enemies, to learn from your allies, to learn from yourself, your greatest ally. So, I don't know where this is going. This has been rambling. These are my thoughts. Maybe they weren't helpful. They certainly weren't organized. I didn't write any of this out, so it has no thesis, body, and conclusion. So, you can hear in the tone of my voice that I'm wrapping it up because, I think it's gone on long enough. But I am curious what my fellow men think on these subjects. And if you made it through this, I'd like to know if you made it through it. So drop me a line or something. If you'd like to discuss bioethics, certainly drop me a line, because there is a lot that needs discussing. There is a lot that we need to figure out as men, as value setters, so that we can be judicious in our actions. We are all practical men of action here, so we should discuss these things, certainly. And if you have things to say, if you've been to a higher mountaintop and can see further than me, or if you've stood on the shoulders of greater giants than I, then I want to know about it. I want to be right. I want to live these ideals, to live ideally. So if there are things that I need to know, I'd like to know them. And if these ramblings, rather, have been helpful, yeah, drop me a line as well. And I think with that, I'm going to put this into editing and post it, see what kind of response I get. And I appreciate your time. Your time is valuable. It is always my pleasure to have some of your time, my fellow men, because it really is valuable to me. Your life is finite. Your life is scarce. As far as the supply and demand goes, you're only alive for however many decades, and you could be doing anything. And you're listening to me right now. So, I mean, thank you. Thank you. You fellow value setters are spending some of your time, your value on me, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that greatly. So I just wanted to say that, and I think that's a good note to close on. You are valuable. I value your time. I'd appreciate it if you spend some time commenting on this, because this is an important conversation. This is an important thing to figure out where we are going, where I am going, I suppose I should say, where you are going, and if our paths happen to cross, I suppose, where we are going. And MGTOW is very important to me, and yeah, so I'll spend some time on it as well. And thank you for your time and bearing with the very rambling thoughts. Bye.